Yes. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that even short you could enjoy lunch. I hope that people will come back in because we have very interesting presenters. It's not working?
It's working.
Yeah? Okay. Yes, I have the pleasure, maybe someone can help get people in. I know it's very hard. I know it's very hard. People want to, yeah, okay. Let me start. I am very pleased to chair this plenary session. It's called Plenary Session 2. And as you have seen in the program, we have a number of sessions where we are going to go into details into several aspects of Diamond Open Access: infrastructures, careers, policies, research assessment, etc. But this session is a session that conceptually can guide how then we go about those other topics. That's why we have entitled this session Reimagining. Scholarly Publishing for Equity and Inclusion. So we have invited a number of speakers from different perspectives, different backgrounds, different parts of the world, for them to share their views and to inspire us all. So without any further ado, because it's quite late enough, let me start and invite the first speaker, Luciana Balboa. She is a member of the Global Young Academy. Luciana, we are delighted to have you here with us. Please come forward. And the floor is yours.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So, well, in order to support multilingualism, my talk will be delivered in Spanish. Okay, thanks. To facilitate the work of the interpreters, I will stick to my script. So sorry if I'm not that spontaneous as I would like to be, okay? Okay, now in Spanish. Bueno, hola a todos, estoy realmente muy contenta y honrada de estar aquí. Gracias. Me gustaría en principio dar las gracias al comité organizador por el fantástico trabajo que están realizando y por haber permitido, que esté aquí con ustedes. En principio contarles que soy investigadora en el área biomédicas, estoy especializada en enfermedades infecciosas y trabajo en Buenos Aires, Argentina. Entonces, la perspectiva que les voy a compartir hoy deriva directamente de esa experiencia. Okay. Entonces, me gustaría comenzar por contextualizar un poco el panorama operativo de las revistas de acceso abierto Diamante. Dado que este modelo no cobra ni a los lectores ni a los autores, la cuestión sobre la sostenibilidad económica es fundamental. Existen diferentes modelos operativos que pueden adoptarse. Por ejemplo, revistas institucionales, que son normalmente financiadas por universidades, revistas de sociedades científicas, que pueden financiarse mediante las cuotas de afiliación, conferencias y otros ingresos de las sociedades, revistas financiadas por revistas editoriales, financiadas con fondos públicos y de las sociedades, o pequeñas revistas gestionadas por voluntarios. Sin embargo, Diamond Open Access es más que un modelo sin APCs, es un marco basado en principios fundamentales. Entre ellos se incluyen el funcionamiento sin ánimo de lucro, la eliminación de las barreras financieras para todos, para autores y lectores, y la devolución del control de la comunicación científica a la comunidad investigadora. Es fundamental también destacar que defiende la inclusión del multilingüismo y el conocimiento de temas locales, lo que garantiza un diálogo académico más equitativo e inclusivo. Sin embargo, en la actualidad existen revistas con trayectoria de acceso Diamante que debido a dificultades para sostener su costo de funcionamiento mínimo, es decir, no por cuestiones lucrativas, han tenido que empezar a cobrar una tarifa por procesamiento de artículos, APCs, creando lo que sería una categoría de revistas. ¿Esto es un pointer? Sí. De revistas que serían con APC, pero sin fines de lucro. Asimismo, también algunas revistas han hecho una transición desde un modelo de suscripción tradicional hacia el modelo de acceso abierto diamante por motivos que pueden incluir, por ejemplo, recuperar el control académico, promover la equidad o simplemente responder a mandatos de nuevas políticas. Por lo tanto, se complejizan los modelos operativos y debemos entonces pensar en formas de sostener, de retener aquellas revistas que estaban operando en el modelo, en la modalidad diamante, y también integrar a aquellas que desean hacer la transición hacia este modelo. En un contexto global que cada vez es más desafiante, más allá de todas las transformaciones organizacionales, tecnológicas y editoriales a las que nos vamos a ir refiriendo a lo largo de toda esta cumbre. Van a haber varias sesiones que van a profundizar sobre cada uno de estos aspectos, en particular un aspecto en el que yo estoy muy interesada particularmente, tiene que ver con el aspecto de la evaluación científica. Se han referido mucho respecto a este punto. En mi participación como miembro de la Global Young Academy y como miembro pasado del Steering Board de COARA, he trabajado muy fuertemente en el punto de evaluación científica, pero ya tienen una sesión especial que va a abordar este tema. Entonces, en el día de hoy, yo quería abordar una capa adicional de complejidad para el futuro de Diamond Open Access, que tiene que ver con el deterioro del multilateralismo y el auge de gobiernos con una agenda antiglobalismo. Perdón, ¿más atrás me alejo? Ok. Con una agenda antiglobalista. Bien. Estos gobiernos, ejemplificados en diversas latitudes, desde el norte hasta el sur, priorizan de forma excluyente los intereses nacionales, desconfían de las instituciones académicas y mediáticas tradicionales y son hostiles hacia la cooperación multilateral y también hacia la gobernanza global. Suelen mostrar un escepticismo profundo hacia las agendas académicas percibidas como globalistas, particularmente en las áreas de ciencias sociales e humanidades. Esto es particularmente notorio en mi país, donde estamos viviendo un auténtico cientificidio. Este proceso se caracteriza por el desmantelamiento del Ministerio de Ciencia y Técnica, que ha creado un vacío institucional enorme, la pérdida de más de 5.000 científicos y técnicos desde 2023, la reducción drástica de la inversión en la función ciencia y tecnología, la derogación de la ley que estipulaba incrementos graduales de ese presupuesto. Varios institutos considerados de misión crítica fueron disueltos o severamente reducidos. La Agencia Nacional Primaria de Financiamiento Científico tiene paralizados desde 2021 el financiamiento de todos los proyectos de investigación, incluso aquellos ya aprobados, evaluados y aprobados. Tienen ahí un ejemplo en mi propio CV de un proyecto evaluado, aprobado y nunca financiado. Los fondos para reparación y actualización de equipamiento han desaparecido. Los salarios de los investigadores han caído un 37% y las becas doctorales se sitúan por debajo de la línea de pobreza. Podrán imaginar entonces las enormes peripecias que enfrentan las revistas de acceso diamante argentinas para sostenerse en este contexto. Esta visión política choca frontalmente con las bases de acceso abierto diamante, teniendo en cuenta que el acceso abierto diamante encarna una academia como bien común abierto, colaborativo y transnacional. este ideal es socavado por las políticas antiglobalistas que son reacias a invertir en la infraestructura científica descentralizada y comunitaria que el acceso abierto diamante requiere. De hecho, sus políticas pueden reducir fondos para la ciencia básica y la cooperación internacional, secando una fuente vital para muchas revistas de acceso abierto diamante. Fomentar también un clima de aislamiento intelectual que debilita las redes académicas globales de apoyo y revisión que sostienen estas revistas. Aún así, creo que estas mismas presiones sobre el sistema científico están despertando conciencia en la comunidad científica, incluyendo en aquellas comunidades que están más orientadas hacia la evaluación métrica y la publicación por la vía comercial, y me estoy refiriendo particularmente a las disciplinas de donde yo misma provengo, la biomedicina experimental, las STEM. Y por lo tanto pienso que es un momento único para llevarles la cultura de Diamond Open Access a esas disciplinas, a las más resistentes. Frente a este panorama, la mera supervivencia ya no puede ser un objetivo suficiente. Debemos fortalecer activamente los ecosistemas de Diamond Open Access y estas son algunas posibles líneas de acción colectiva. Por un lado, robustecer la gobernanza comunitaria. Tenemos que profesionalizar y diversificar los modelos de financiación dentro de la esfera comunitaria, creando consorcios internacionales, fondos solidarios y mecanismos de mutualización de recursos que reduzcan la dependencia de fuentes únicas y volátiles. Y esto es muy importante, visibilizar y defender el valor político de Diamond Open Access. El Diamond Open Access no es solamente un modelo sin una tarifa asociada. Es un acto de resistencia para defender la autonomía de la ciencia. Debemos documentar y comunicar su éxito como herramienta de equidad y de soberanía científica, construyendo narrativas potentes que contrarresten los discursos aislacionistas. Y por último, tejer alianzas translocales que nos permitan construir infraestructuras que sean resilientes. Entonces, intensificar las redes entre universidades, sociedades científicas y comunidades académicas que estén más allá de las fronteras, garantizando que el bien común académico no quede cautivo de ningún contexto político singular. Para concluir, entonces, quisiera destacar en este contexto que construir el ecosistema Diamond Open Access constituye un acto profundamente político y que nuestra tarea, por lo tanto, es continuar trabajando para que este acceso abierto diamante no solo se expanda, sino que se consolide como un bien común resiliente capaz de trascender la volatilidad de los ciclos políticos. Muchas gracias.
Yes, thank you very much, Luciana, for this excellent talk from the perspective of a young researcher, which is very good, and as you can see, they are also very important in this summit. Let me now go to Africa, and we welcome Horacio Zimba, who is Assistant Professor of Information Science at the Eduardo Mondlane University in Mozambique. Horacio, we are delighted to have you with us, so please, the floor is yours. And if you can speak a little bit slowly to facilitate the work of the translators.
Yeah. 1 second, I have a small announcement. Okay. So that, dear speakers, we request you to speak a little slower because we are having a simultaneous interpretation relayed in 3 foreign languages. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Horacio Zimba, as was presented, and I will present in Portuguese. But before that, I would like to thanks for having me in this third summit. So I was asked to follow some guidelines, but before I start the presentation, I present myself. I work at the trabalho na Universidade Eduardo Mondlane, desculpe, e, portanto, já desde, lógico, o tempo de década de 80, mas comecei a trabalhar como bibliotecário em 2004, depois da formação que eu fiz no Brasil. Sou formado em Ciência de Informação, bacharelato, mestrado e doutoramento na Universidade de Brasília. E venho trabalhando, então, na Universidade de Mondlane desde 2004 como bibliotecário, mas em 2011 assumi, então, o papel de diretor do Serviço de Documentação, papel que eu ocupo até os dias de hoje. E vou falar, então, sobre a experiência que eu tenho estado a desenvolver desde esse período para cá. E também trabalho como professor auxiliar na Escola de Comunicação e Artes para o curso de Ciência de Informação. Tenho estado a trabalhar como editor científico, editor técnico da revista científica da UEM, que é uma revista de acesso aberto diamante, e lançado em 2012. Eu faço parte, então, da equipe técnica que faz a configuração do OJS, que é o sistema que nós usamos para esta revista. Também, durante esse período, quando eu assumi o cargo, trabalhei bastante para que pudéssemos termos uma associação moçambicana de bibliotecas acadêmicas e de pesquisa. Portanto, esta é a forma que nós encontramos de termos uma classe profissional atuante e que pudesse, então, também advogar pelos assuntos da área de bibliotecas, assim como de acesso aberto na altura que nós estávamos mais interessados. Então, esta associação ela foi fundada oficialmente em 2015 e eu tenho estado desde lá como presidente da associação até os dias de hoje também. E também tenho estado a trabalhar com o governo na criação de repositório científico de Moçambique. Bom, eu fui solicitado para tentar responder essas questões, mas pelo tempo eu julguei que talvez seria bom trazer essa experiência que nós temos estado a trabalhar, que de alguma maneira está alinhada com o que tem estado a ser dito nesta conferência desde amanhã de hoje. E o que é que eu trago, então? Trago a experiência que nós temos desde a primeira iniciativa de estabelecimento de um repositório científico em Moçambique, chamado Saber. Infelizmente, ele já não se chama assim, porque neste percurso de tentarmos, então, trazer a iniciativa para o nível nacional, acabou perdendo o nome que tinha sido dado em 2009. Por quê? Porque em 2009 a iniciativa ela surgiu dentro da Universidade Eduardo Mondlane. Então, a comunidade moçambicana sempre confundiu o repositório Saber como sendo da universidade e não como sendo um repositório nacional. E pronto, nas últimas discussões nós tivemos para a formulação, então, da primeira política nacional, que eu chamo de política, mas é um regulamento do repositório que foi aprovado em 2024. Nas discussões havidas lá, nós acabamos mudando o nome para Repositório Científico de Moçambique. Mas chegamos a isto por quê? Porque nos primeiros 3 anos da minha gestão, eu percebi de que havia dificuldade de manter esse repositório em termos de gestão do mesmo, da infraestrutura, os processos de depósito, porque não havia uma estrutura, digamos, de governação efetiva, aprovada, e tínhamos que ter isto. É isso que nós tentamos fazer, então, ao longo dos primeiros anos da minha gestão, enquanto diretor do Serviço de Documentação, e começamos a fazer isto conversando com a equipe da Moronet, na altura, que estava em frente ao processo de estabelecimento da Rede Nacional de Pesquisa em Moçambique, na pessoa do engenheiro Chamani, que hoje já não é mais parte desta entidade. Isso levou-nos um período de 6 anos, praticamente, a tentar discutir o regulamento que veio a ser aprovado em 2024, em abril. E com este regulamento, nós já temos uma política, digamos, de acesso aberto, que também prevê que 2 equipes de gestão, uma de gestão técnica e outra de gestão mais política. Eu faço parte dessa parte de gestão política, que é ela que estará encarregue, então, por propor políticas de acesso aberto, de ciência aberta, no contexto nacional. Portanto, como forma de auxiliar, então, o governo a dotar estas políticas no nível nacional, que devem ser, então, depois implementada pelas instituições de ensino superior em Moçambique. O que nós fizemos foi que, neste grupo de gestão do repositório, nós tentamos integrar todas as instituições de ensino em forma de representatividade. Portanto, temos lá instituições de ensino superior, universidades, de investigação científica, de financiamento, de avaliação de qualidade, portanto, para o ensino superior aqui, e a própria Rede Nacional de Ensino e Pesquisa. Portanto, é um grupo multidisciplinar, constituído por técnicos de informática, bibliotecários e outras profissões que estão ligadas principalmente na área de financiamento, de políticas nacionais. E assim nós julgamos que teremos uma infraestrutura, não somente tecnológica, mas também equipes que vão poder dinamizar o processo de implementação das iniciativas a nível nacional, assim como a nível das instituições. O que este regulamento ou política que nós conseguimos que fosse aprovado ao nível do Conselho de Ministros, portanto, via um decreto, ele, então, tem as ideias que devem ser replicadas ao nível das instituições através de criação de políticas institucionais de acesso aberto e ciência aberta, e que, a partir da aprovação deste mesmo regulamento, o repositório científico de Moçambique passa a ser a fonte primária de busca de informação para, por exemplo, efeitos de avaliação dos cursos, para efeitos de financiamento, para efeitos de promoção dos investigadores, ainda que neste momento esteja na fase inicial, mas esperamos que no futuro esta venha a ser a fonte principal. Isto vai nos então permitir com que as iniciativas de acesso aberto possam ser dinamizadas com alguma flexibilidade e até celeridade. E, portanto, neste mesmo projeto, Recimo, nós pensamos numa infraestrutura partilhada, centralizada, que, em princípio, deve ser suportada pelo governo, portanto, no centro de dados do governo, e lá prevemos infraestrutura de repositórios comuns, portanto, partilhados, serviços de publicação também partilhada, principalmente porque muitas das instituições de ensino superior em Moçambique têm dificuldades de manter infraestruturas desta natureza. Uma e outra instituição pode fazer isso. A que eu pertenço já tem um repositório científico institucional, tem uma revista própria, mas nem todas vão poder ter isso no médio, portanto, digamos, curto, médio e longo prazo. Então, como garantir que todos possam, então, disponibilizar a publicação científica de forma livre e aberta. Então, neste caso, julgamos que o governo deve financiar a parte da infraestrutura e, inclusive, fazer essa manutenção a partir da chamada Rede Nacional de Ensino e Pesquisa. Bom, o tempo que não foi dado já esgotou. Aqui apenas são algumas imagens, que é o decreto que aprova o projeto Recimo de 2024. Portanto, Aquela tela azul é a revista científica da UEM, que eu sou editor técnico. Tentei trazer a imagem do Recife, infelizmente está fora do ar. Acredito que o centro de dados de Maluane foi atingido pelas intempéries que estão a acontecer agora em Moçambique. Provavelmente não tem energia nesse momento. E, no fundo, temos o repositório da Universidade do Mondlane. E muito obrigado pela vossa atenção.
Thank you very much, Horacio, for illustrating your example and a good example of government support and intervention with all these different policies and initiatives. Let's now, we remain in Africa, now in Morocco, where Anel Roul from the School of Information Sciences from Morocco, she will present us about their initiative and hopefully their reflections on Diamond Open Access. Same recommendation as before. Please speak slowly for the interpreters,
okay.
because
Thank
she will
you,
speak
Olivia.
in French.
Bonjour tout le monde. Joanne, d'abord pour l'invitation. Merci à toute l'équipe organisatrice pour ce magnifique congrès. Je commencerai par présenter le Diamant Open Access en tant que levier d'équité et d'inclusion en Afrique. J'exposerai ensuite certains de nos projets de recherche à l'École des sciences de l'information sur l'Open Access Diamant. Et enfin, je présenterai des actions concrètes pour développer l'Open Access selon l'expérience marocaine aussi. Je commence par une idée très simple, c'est que l'accès à la connaissance n'est pas neutre, il est profondément politique. Toutes les formes de connaissance, les objets de recherche, les langues de publication n'ont pas la même visibilité dans le système mondial de la science, un système qui est dominé par les pays du Nord, qui est dominé par la langue anglaise également. Et nous devons aussi repenser nos collaborations Nord-Sud pour passer d'une logique de transfert unilatérale des pays du Nord aux pays du Sud à une co-construction du savoir, un vrai partenariat scientifique entre les pays du Nord et du Sud. Nous avons sûrement besoin de l'expertise des pays du Nord, mais les pays développés aussi ont besoin de notre connaissance, de notre donnée pour répondre aux défis mondiaux. Et le meilleur exemple est l'accès ouvert aux données sur la pandémie Covid-19, où tout le monde partageait l'information scientifique et technique pour pouvoir relever le défi sanitaire. Le premier défi est l'écart entre l'accessibilité et la visibilité de nos publications. Donc un article peut être accessible, mais rester invisible dans les bases de données indexées. Cela est clairement illustré par la carte que je vous présente, où le nombre de publications scientifiques en Afrique est presque le double dans OpenAlex que dans Web of Science. Et toutes les universités africaines font face à un dilemme entre l'intégration de la science mondiale et l'alignement sur les priorités nationales de recherche, nos priorités nationales, nos connaissances socialement pertinentes. Donc le Diamant Open Access, c'est un moyen de corriger ces asymétries et d'accroître la visibilité de la production scientifique africaine. Cette exigence de rigueur scientifique nous ramène à la souveraineté scientifique de nos pays, c'est-à-dire la capacité de diffuser, d'archiver et de pérenniser les résultats de la recherche, et la capacité de développer une recherche utile qui répond aux priorités nationales de nos pays, qui contribue à relever les défis sociétaux, de santé, etc., et qui ne dépend pas forcément du marché éditorial qui est plus commercial. Le Diamant Open Access n'est pas juste un modèle de publication, il considère la connaissance comme un bien commun, on est tous d'accord, mais qui doit être soutenu par des politiques publiques, avec des infrastructures, avec un financement, mais qui est stable, pour répondre aux défis actuels. Mais est-ce qu'on peut rendre visible ce que nous ne connaissons pas? Et si on se limite à notre production scientifique en Afrique, est-ce qu'on pourra la rendre visible? Maintenant, je vais présenter quelques résultats de recherche de notre équipe de recherche à l'École des sciences de l'information qui portent sur la cartographie et de la visibilité et de l'ouverture des revues scientifiques africaines et arabes. Et nos résultats ne comparent pas seulement les pays, les disciplines, mais c'est surtout, on met l'accent sur les bases de données bibliographiques comme prisme d'observation et qui ne capturent pas forcément la même réalité dans les pays du Nord et du Sud. Donc, depuis 2025, nous menons des études cartographiques sur les revues africaines en examinant la langue, l'indexation, les standards de qualité tels que le DOI, les Creative Commons, etc. Et nous partons, c'est-à-dire nous utilisons la base de données ISSN, qui est la plus complète. Il y a plus de 60 000 articles scientifiques africains, et revues africaines, pardon, et nous analysons les revues aussi sur AJOL, sur les grandes plateformes comme AJOL et bien sûr le DOAJ. On évalue les revues selon un modèle à 5 niveaux, et allant d'une présence numérique, parce qu'il y a énormément de revues africaines en version papier, à une préparation à l'indexation internationale. Est-ce qu'il y a un DOI, des Creative Commons, etc. Toutes les exigences de qualité. De nombreuses revues, comme vous voyez dans le graphique, atteignent des niveaux fondamentaux, mais beaucoup moins parviennent aux standards les plus élevés pour qu'ils soient dans les revues indexées. La première analyse, elle montre que la visibilité du diamant Open Access varie selon la base de données utilisée. Donc dans Scopus, c'est tout à fait normal, c'est un modèle d'APC, donc on n'a pas beaucoup de revues en Open Access diamant. Mais par contre, dans le DOAJ, une part importante des revues est déjà intégrée dans l'Open Access diamant, surtout en Égypte et en Algérie. AJOL, il met en évidence une forte concentration. Donc seuls 6 pays, à eux seuls, 6 pays sont les leaders au niveau africain, qui produisent 70% des revues en libre accès dans AJOL. Mais par contre, il y a un dynamisme au niveau de l'Open Access Diamant, mais on observe une sous-représentation des revues francophones. C'est plus des revues anglophones. Au sein du même groupe de recherche, on analyse les revues scientifiques arabes qui font face aux mêmes problèmes de visibilité, aux raisons du biais linguistique, du manque de portail, de standards, etc. Et cette carte nous montre une forte fragmentation de l'indexation. Donc on trouve beaucoup de revues arabes dans le ROAD, Crossref, OpenAlex, et le réseau est dominé par l'Égypte, l'Algérie et le Maroc, qui disposent quand même d'un écosystème de publication plus structuré et qui ont tous des portails nationaux des revues, et qui est très important. Par contre, l'impact de ces portails, il reste conditionné par leur visibilité et leur intégration dans des plateformes internationales. Donc, je remercie l'équipe, c'est des doctorants de l'École des sciences de l'information, des ingénieurs des données de la connaissance de l'école, et je tiens à remercier aussi Pascal Aventurier de l'IRD qui est avec nous dans ce groupe de recherche. Pour finir, 3 actions concrètes pour renforcer un écosystème diamant durable. Donc, j'ai parlé des infrastructures, des capacités, renforcement des capacités à la fois des bibliothécaires, des chercheurs, des éditeurs, et la transparence éditoriale. Donc, 1, politique nationale de sciences ouvertes. 2, il faut qu'on sache qu'on ait des informations plus précises, donc qu'on cartographie les revues scientifiques africaines. Et enfin, il est essentiel de réformer l'évaluation de la recherche pour promouvoir une science plus inclusive. Il y a une contradiction, on veut développer l'open access, mais on exige de nos doctorants de publier dans des revues indexées. Je conclue avec des initiatives qu'on a mené au Maroc pour développer l'open access. Je l'ai présenté l'année passée dans le même colloque. On a lancé la stratégie nationale d'Open Science. On a travaillé 2 ans sur la stratégie, sur la création d'une archive ouverte nationale. C'est un projet qui est en stand-by parce qu'il y a un changement ministériel, mais on continue notre passion et notre militantisme. Donc là, je suis heureuse de vous présenter 2 projets dans le monde arabe, à la Bibliothèque nationale du Royaume du Maroc. On veut créer un portail de revues africaines pour capitaliser sur le travail de recherche qu'on est en train de mener. Et l'idée, c'est de créer des plateformes interopérables et qui peuvent compléter les bases de données existantes, telles qu'AJOL, etc. La composante finale, et qui me paraît, pour moi, c'est la clé de réussite de l'ensemble des projets qu'on est en train de réaliser. C'est le renforcement des capacités, la formation et aussi la sensibilisation de nos chercheurs, éditeurs et bibliothécaires. Sur des concepts, c'est vrai que c'est un mouvement qui date de 30 ans, mais dans plusieurs pays africains, on est encore là pour sensibiliser les chercheurs aux avantages de l'open access quant à leur visibilité et leur citation. Et aussi, j'en profite, on initie des collaborations avec toutes les... Je suis éditrice associée au DOAJ, on a un chapter Creative Commons au Maroc, je travaille aussi avec DataSide, donc on profite de toutes ces collaborations pour organiser des formations sur ces sujets-là. Merci beaucoup.
Et merci beaucoup à tous les intervenants de cette session. Oh, sorry. So thank you to all the speakers in this session to keep their times. That is really excellent and allows us to really catch up a bit of the delay. Now, thank you, Hane, for this excellent presentation, so comprehensive about Morocco and also about Africa. And all these developments we definitely need to take into account for our reflections. Now, the next speaker was from India, Nitin Seth, director of the Indo-French Center for the Promotion of Advanced Research, CEFIPRA. The problem is that he has had to cancel, unfortunately. So we jump into the next speaker. Now we start with 4 speakers that are all online. So please bear with these presentations. I know it's not so easy for those present here, but I'm sure that they will all have excellent reflections to share with all of us. So let me welcome Victoria Zupkala from the European Commission. Victoria, are you ready to speak with us? Oh, great.
Should I present my slides? Yeah?
I think the slideshow is being now prepared to be shown on the larger screen, and we also see you. So the floor is yours, Victoria.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, colleagues. It's a great honor to be with you, even if online, on this third Global Diamond Open Access Summit. I come to you on behalf of the European Commission, the Director General working on research and innovation, and in particular on open science. My short talk to you today will be about what we do to support equitable and trustworthy open access publishing in Europe, giving you a bit the policy context, and then gradually getting into Open Research Europe, which is a case study on this, in particular, our publishing platform. So if we could go to the next slide. Our framework for working on Diamond Open Access Publishing is in the Commission Open Science. I would like to let those of you who are not from Europe, a lot of you that is, put it in a broader context, that of the European research area. The Commission and in Europe, we have been supporting open access and open science for many, many years. What many of you may not know, or most of you probably, is that open science is a critical part of the European research area, which is a concept that we devised in 2020, actually, when there was a relevant communication on the European research area. It is this vision of a unified research area across the EU with regard to a research market, let's say, with the free circulation of researchers, of knowledge, of innovation, etc. So it's a unifying element of Europe in the field of research. This is a very important term because it also became enshrined in our treaties. So the Lisbon Treaty in 2007 or 8 or 9, I think. It is a critical part of the treaty. And so the free circulation of knowledge and thus open access and open science are an integral part of this European research area and remain, therefore, a very important part of our policy throughout those years. This we see with a variety of policy activities of the Commission and the Member States, such as, for example, a 2012 recommendation of the Commission to the Member States on open access to and preservation of scientific information, which was revised in 2018. More recently, an effort to further enhance the European research area, or ERA, as we call it, through a pact for research and innovation, a new communication on the research area in 2020, and formulating the policies that concern the European research area in what we call a policy agenda, which is revised every 2 or 3 years, and is done together with the Commission and the Member States, and the Commission funds the implementation of this policy agenda. So we're currently in the policy agenda 2025 and 2027, where open science is a part of it. We fund open access and open science through our consecutive framework programs on research. Currently, we are in Horizon Europe. It's FP9, FP10 coming up, and open access has been part of it since FP7 and increasingly strengthened and broadened into what we call open science, an open and collaborative approach to doing research. And it would be amiss here if I did not speak of the Council conclusions in 2022 and 2023 that emphasize specifically open science, research assessment, and equitable publishing, which also lead our work. I think to amplify what previous speakers said, as I've heard in the previous session and this session, we are seeking to create enablers for open science and, of course, for Diamond, which is, in a way, it is part of the same policy narrative. So we are seeking to support incentives and rewards for open science. And one example is, supporting the reform of research assessment, the agreement on research assessment, and subsequently funding the coalition towards the reform of research assessment, COARA, that was also mentioned earlier. Providing incentives and rewards for open science as well as for diamonds are, as you've already said, quite critical when we operate in a very different reward and prestige system in terms of publishing currently. We think that the legislative and regulatory environment needs to be strong for open science, to practice open science, and that also includes practicing and enabling Diamond open access, for example, in terms of potentiating the public infrastructures for that. So we seek to do that through funding in Horizon Europe, for example, but very soon you should be waiting to hear about our European Research Area Act, the proposal of which will come up at the end of 2026, and this will be legislation that will include open science at the EU level. So it's going to be quite important. Finally, of course, infrastructures and skills are critical for open science and for Diamond open access. And as examples, I would bring to you here the European Open Science Cloud, so the seamless European space where data and services circulate for researchers in all fairness, findability, accessibility, reproducibility, and reproducibility. ORE, and I will focus on ORE really soon, and of course funding through project supports for skills and education for practicing open science and data-intensive research, and may I add, of course, supporting skills and capacities for Diamond open access. If we can go to the next slide, I will present to you more specifically our interest and our motives to support Diamond publishing, which in our formal document you will see as institutional publishing. And the reason for this is because we want to potentiate and support and enable institutions, meaning research or research relevant institutions who are usually behind Diamond publishing with their communities, to practice this not-for-profit publishing and offer it as a service for the public good. Further, we wish to support innovative and transparent scholarly communication that leads to robust research and reproducible research that is trusted by the research communities as well by citizens. And finally, of course, we do seek to actively enrich and diversify the current publishing environment, such as it is, in support of equity, further supporting equity. So this is quite relevant here. As I said earlier, our instruments basically to support this is, of course, doing policy recommendations, Horizon, the ERA Act, and our policy agenda where Diamond Open Access Publishing is under an equity strand in our policy agenda, and the funding goes underneath it. So we have been funding for a few years Diamond publishing activities, and being the Commission, we are interested in funding the European dimension, right? We do not fund national projects, but rather we fund to support coordination and capacity building at the EU level. And for example, we've funded various projects, but Diamas, I will bring up here. It's quite distinctive. It's a flagship project for us, as it sets the foundation for the European Diamond Capacity Hub in the future. So we have done this trying to support diamonds across Europe and the EU for a few years now. Also, 5 years ago, we started our own platform, Open Research Europe, which is actually embedded in the European research area. We promised it in the communication on the new European area in 2020, and we launched it in 2021, serving initially only the grantees of our projects. So all Horizon Europe, but not only that, the Commission currently funds about 28 different framework programs across the EU. So anybody with papers coming out of there are eligible to publish in ORE. However, to embed ORE better in the European research area, we wanted, of course, to enlarge eligibility to publish, to make more equitable, to go towards Diamond, and to go with others, not alone. So as of this year, ORE is getting into a new phase that is not going to just be a Commission platform, but will be collectively supported. And if we can see the next slide. So our vision on collectively supporting ORE, and then maybe you can click to show the picture on the right-hand side. I think it has an animation. Was expressed actually in collaboration with the numerous organizations that we work with in 2024, and is a vision for supporting collectively and governing collectively for the public good. It's very much a diamond model, or the aspiration actually is to go there. And currently it's a stepped approach toward diamonds. So there's about 16 organizations that support it for 5 years, including the Commission. And basically, as you participate in ORE, this provides eligibility to researchers to publish at the national level or at the research organization level. However, this is only the first step, so it's the next 5 years, and we're hoping that through the learning soon, ORE will be able to open and go beyond for eligibility to publish, of course, into a Diamond Open Access model. These organizations are in the EU, but we're not limited to it. It is open. It's a very much from Europe to the world. So it's not a closed model, so I don't want you to think that. And also, we devised an equitable cost-sharing scheme for the members of the governance outside of the EU, and we hope to work more on this in the future, such that participation is possible for everyone. We also wanted ORE to be supported by an open source infrastructure, and for this, the Commission procured had a public tender that was won by PKP, the Public Knowledge Project in Canada, which operates and supports, evolves actually open journal systems to edit the system to meet the workflow of ORE, which is a post-publication open peer review publishing system. So there you go. It will be also supported by an open source infrastructure, which will give more technological sovereignty, let's say, to this. It will also move away from the Commission and will be operated by CERN as of October 2026 with the support of the Commission and all these funders. And a very brief slide in the next slide to show you who these organizations that are participating are. The initial organizations, about 16 organizations representing 9 member states, I think, and 2 countries outside the EU, Switzerland and Norway, and open to the world. Actually, this is just the beginning. So This is actually a live experiment. We hope to have more and more researchers publishing in Oren, and we hope to be able to open it further in the future for the world. So thank you very much for this opportunity to speak in the conference, and I wish the very best for the remainder of the day. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you very much for this very comprehensive presentation, and we are delighted that ORE is taking off. Happy that we have assisted the process from its inception in a true cooperative effort all across Europe, now with my European hat. Let's move to the other side of the Atlantic. We go to Canada, where we have there Leslie Chan. Sorry, no, before Mari. Let's stay in Europe for one more time. Mari Sonlitoet, my own president. Mari, excuse me. She is online. Mari has been in the previous session as well, but we have, she will offer different type of reflections, this time really into this reimagining of the scholarly publishing for equity and inclusion. Mari, are you ready?
I'm ready. Thank you so much, Lydia.
Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, fellow panelists and participants, I'm really grateful to be part of this panel as well. I think my fellow panelists have already really showcased the developments that we're seeing. That's very inspiring to hear, but at the same time, reminding us of the very basic conditions that have to be there for us to proceed, and not least quite fundamental challenges facing us that we heard not least from the Young Academy. So thank you so much. We are here, of course, to reimagine scholarly publishing for equity and inclusion. And for funders and research performing organizations, such as those that we represent in Science Europe, this is not a marginal discussion. It goes to the heart of how knowledge serves society. And equitable scholarly communication demands that we rethink incentives, that we rethink infrastructures. We just heard about Aura, that we fully support, of course, and also that we rethink the governance so that the system reflects our values: quality, integrity, openness, and fairness. And we all recognize that deeply embedded prestige cultures, especially the weight given maybe to quite a narrow set of journals, still shape behavior in ways that constrain openness and inclusion. So all of this we have to work with. And funding agencies therefore also need policies that anticipate systemic effects and also price transparency. This means sustained financial support for lesser known but community relevant open access journals, wider use of open peer review practices where appropriate, and a decisive shift in research assessment away from blunt metric-driven indicators towards qualitative judgment of contributions and societal value. All of this would accelerate change. I also want to just share a couple of reflections on the growing use of AI in research, which of course requires close attention. I think used well, AI can help with routine tasks, reviewer suggestions, basic eligibility checks, and so forth. I think many of us are already doing that. But we have to be alert to the risks, like bias amplification, hallucination, fabricated content, predatory venues scaling fast, data protection concerns, and so forth. Calls and grant conditions should make explicit what forms of AI use are permissible with clear enforcement. And of course, and as we've already heard, we need public infrastructures, trusted open systems where researchers can deposit, validate, and compare work against prior results so that automation strengthens rather than weakens integrity. Diamond Open Access has emerged as a cornerstone in our endeavor for equitable, sustainable scholarly communication. It removes fees for authors and readers and places ownership and governance with the scholarly community, and all of this is exactly what we're aiming for. And it fits within a broader global shift towards knowledge as a public good, which it has to be. Diamond OA supports inclusive infrastructures and open standards, and it helps build a global knowledge commons where research can be shared, where it can be reused and adapted to local context, which is also of crucial importance. Now, Diamond Open Access is best understood as part of a global knowledge commons, supporting reuse, supporting adaptation and dissemination in ways that advance equity and participation across regions. And by design, Diamond OA helps address structural inequities, particularly for institutions and communities that cannot readily participate in the current APC-based publishing. And I think the equity goals should be very, very clear. Strengthen locally edited journals and infrastructures, amplify underrepresented voices, reduce financial barriers, and support multilingual context-specific scholarship. And all of these are structural requirements that we need if we want a system that reflects how knowledge is produced and how it's used across diverse contexts. And for this model to succeed, we also need the right system level conditions, and that includes sustainable long-term funding. Many of my fellow participants have underlined it. Public interest digital infrastructures built on open standards, transparent and community-based governance, and real capacity building across institutions and across regions. And these elements give Diamond Open Access the stability that it needs to scale and to maintain quality. And from a European perspective, I think we've learned some practical lessons regarding this. And platforms that remove costs for authors and readers combined with open peer review and immediate access show how we can contribute to reducing barriers while supporting rigorous quality assurance. And equally important is reforming research assessment, and this has to go hand in hand. And through collaborative initiatives with many institutions, many funders, we're moving away from journal-based metrics and toward qualitative evaluation and responsible use of indicators. And this is a crucial part of the whole process if we want to achieve Diamond. It's essential because we have to reduce prestige bias. We have to reward contributions that advance equity, advance quality and openness. And to increase ownership of research outcomes, governance must stay in the hands of the scholarly community. And that means non-profit stewardship, participatory decision-making, open standards, and real portability of data and content. And making our system freely accessible while maintaining rigor and ethics also requires new incentives. We must recognize a wide range of outputs, data, software, methods, community engagement, and so forth. And we have to keep expert peer review at the center still. And training and support for editors, for reviewers and authors, especially in multilingual and diverse settings, that's also vital. And where open peer review builds trust, we should always encourage it. And in this era of geopolitical headwinds, to put it that way, our response should be principled openness with safeguards and striking that right balance at all times. We can commit to universal access to publications and, where possible, to data, while respecting ethical and security considerations. We should invest in interoperable public infrastructures that are resilient in times of crisis, and cooperation should rely on transparent governance, fair partnerships, and shared standards that allow all communities to participate. And cooperation should be anchored in transparent governance, reciprocal partnerships, and shared standards that allow communities to participate, and not only participate, but to participate on fair terms. And two reflections maybe from the funder lens may be helpful. First, we must move from a service logic to start thinking in terms of investment logic, which I also mentioned in the previous panel. And if we want durable equity, we should fund public goods, platforms, registries, shared quality standards, training, and editorial tools, and not just purchase isolated services. And second, policy convergence works best when it leaves room for diversity. We can agree on some core principles: no fees for authors or readers, community-led governance, open standards, and support for many languages. And at the same time, we should allow different models to develop, such as flipping journals where that makes sense, creating new platform-based solutions, using preprint-based workflows, so forth. Diversity in approaches is not a problem, it's a strength when we do it right. And equity and inclusion in scholarly publishing cannot be achieved by any single actor. It requires both bottom-up leadership from research communities and strong top-down support from funders and governments. And it also needs coordination through shared frameworks and joint initiatives. So I think this work, the work that we're doing together now across the world at this summit, to advance policies and governance for Diamond Open Access, and to foster open dialogue, and to develop a roadmap with framework actions. It's exactly the kind of global effort that we need. So I'm very happy to be part of it, although only online this time. And I'm looking forward to being involved in the further development of the roadmap and the actions to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mari, for this reflection and inspiring suggestions. Very nice. Now, yes, we move to the other side of the Atlantic to welcome Leslie Chan. He is an associate professor in the Department of Global Development Studies and director of the Knowledge Equity Lab at the University of Toronto, Scarborough, Canada. Leslie, are you ready?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well. And
and my slides?
Yep, we see you on the screen, and soon the slides will show up. Happy to say hello from here, from afar.
Yeah, hello, Lydia, and everybody there.
Yes. I think your presentation is coming. Can you see it?
I think they're just loading it now.
Hold on one moment.
Here it is, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Here it is. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Lydia. Hello, everyone there. First, thanks to the organizer. I know it's been a monumental task bringing this very complex program together, both logistically and in terms of themes and scheduling. Thanks to Lydia for chairing this session on reimagining scholarly publishing for equity and inclusion. As you can see, the title of my talk is somewhat rhetorical. That is, I want to ask the question, will Diamond Open Access redress global knowledge inequity? The subtitle, Power, Visibility, and the Politics of Naming will become obvious as I progress through my talk. As Lydia mentioned, my name is Leslie Chan. I'm speaking to you from Toronto. As you can see from my background there's a lot of snow, and I've been up since 2 or 3 a.m. this morning because of the time difference, and the outside temperature here is minus 18 Celsius. I'm sure it's a far cry from the warm weather in Bangalore at the moment. It's also disappointing not for me to be able to come in person because I really wanted to connect with many of my old friends in Bangalore, especially my dear friend Arun Nechalam, who many of you know. And Arun has been a pioneer and tireless advocate for open access since its inception. And in the early 2000s, Arun organized numerous workshops and symposiums across India, successfully informing editors, researchers, and policymakers about open access. And through his work, I learned that India at the time already had many no-fee, non-commercial, community-governed open access journals. And furthermore, some of Bangalore's prominent scientific institutions, such as the Indian Institution of Science, were among the very first to establish institutional repositories in the world. And of course, Latin America did not discover diamond yesterday. For over 2 decades, and often despite financial limitation, many individuals and organizations have been developing collaborative infrastructures like Cialo, Redelec, and Amalika. And you'll be hearing actually from my colleague Ariana shortly. And these initiatives have consistently prioritized bibliodiversity, shared infrastructure, a public mission, and enhancing regional visibility. So while the term diamond is widely used, in this talk, I want to keep naming the underlying commitments, namely no fee, non-commercial, community-governed open access. I do this because the descriptive phrase keeps the political economy questions upfront and visible. That is, who pays, who makes decisions, and who benefits. I also like to make reference to the UNESCO recommendation on open science, which identify 4 pillars of open science, namely open access to data and publication, open infrastructure, openness to society and societal members, and openness to diverse knowledge systems. But while the first 2 pillars have received a great deal of investment and attention, particularly in resource-rich area, the other 2 pillars are lagging behind, namely openness to diverse knowledge system and openness to society and benefit for societies. These are still issues that are not sufficiently addressed. So this leads me to the main point of my presentation.
Sorry,
Removing,
sorry to
yeah.
interrupt. Are the slides following your talk? Because I
No,
think you should say
I
next.
will call out the slides.
Exactly.
I should still
Yes.
be just on the first slide, sorry.
You were still on the first slide. So let's go back, please.
Yeah, this is a long-winded introduction. Sorry, I was speed up.
Okay. Thank you. Just
This
remember to say next.
So the main point of my presentation is that removing fees and providing infrastructure can expand access, but equities really depend on whether we also redistribute decision-making power and capacity, whether we prioritize and protect bibliodiversity and epistemic inclusion, valuing a plurality of journals and formats, a plurality of languages, a plurality of publics, and of course, a plurality of the ways of knowing. So slide number 2, please. So here I want to pose 2 questions. They're really 2 dimensions of the same question. First is, will diamond open access be pursued as an equity intervention or as a technical publishing reform that leaves the structural advantages and power hierarchy intact? In other words, do we treat no-fee open access as a shift in power and resourcing or as a shift in workflow and compliance? The latter one is simply a tweak in technical compliance. Second, will diamond open access become a framework for what I would call epistemic decentralization, meaning real redistribution of capacities, decision-making power, and diverse way of knowing to serve the framework of different regions? Or will it become epistemic co-optation where peripheral knowledge and practices are absorbed into a set of central agendas? This matter because equity is not really just about property of licensing or payment models. Equity is a governance question. Who has the authority to define what counts as knowledge, what counts as legitimacy, and what success looks like? So here we have a recurring theme. That is, power shapes visibility and value, and it also shapes governance. who has the authority to set standards, make decisions, and steer the direction of reform. Can you move to the next slide, please? I have many concerns at the moment, but I'll just highlight three. First, we need to stop conflating technical fixes and efficiency with equity and justice. Technical improvements are not irrelevant, but they can become a distraction for structural reform. Second, even a no-fee model can still replicate structural asymmetries of global knowledge production because there are accumulated advantages in resource and prestige, and especially standard on norm-setting power held disproportionately in the global north and also by private interests. And third, what I would call plan as deja vu. Reforms that may be well-intentioned, but they circulate as universal solutions, while global south initiatives are asked to align rather than lead. This is a governance problem. It is about whose model becomes the standard. So the question for me, will today Diamond Agenda protect existing knowledge diversity and practices? Or will it pressure convergence towards what's easiest to standardize, to benchmark, and to count? So the next slide, please. To show how structural problems get reframed into technical checklists, I want to share a short parable, if I can, from a recent ad that I came across. This ad is for a workshop to help individual or institution to improve their ranking through open access practices. So this slides to me, these two sentences captures a very deep structural problems. It says, in fact, university in Africa, Asia, and Latin America are underrepresented in rankings because of closed data and narrow metrics. So if you join this workshop to learn about how open science practices transparency, persistent identifiers, and open infrastructure can improve institutional visibility and ranking performances. That is using these practices to help you climb the ranking ladder. Now, notice what happens here. This is a structural and governance problem, meaning ranking regimes and narrow metrics are actually shaping how we behave and how policies are made. But this governance problem is reframed as a compliance problem, meaning that if you're not visible enough, then you should become more legible through the technical compliance so that you'll be visible to the metric regimes and become visible globally. Now, this is a classic technical fix for a structural problem. The dominant, highly problematic evaluation system in this case is left unchallenged, and individuals and institutions are then encouraged to adapt themselves to a governance system that is highly asymmetrical in power and then privately controlled. So, and once visibility becomes a compliance project, then technical infrastructures that look neutral, like identifiers, actually become tools of governance. Can I have the next slide, please? So here's my example of how a seemingly neutral tool can become a tool of governance, and that is the digital object identifier, which many of us are somewhat familiar with. The DOI is often treated as a neutral technology, a persistent link, stable citation, and a bit of plumbing for data flow. But DOI actually assumes a key role in the infrastructure of legitimacy. It helps determine what becomes legible to regimes of recognition, linking, indexing, dashboard, citation counts, and evaluation channels, while other outputs remain less visible or uncounted. That means visibility becomes a compliance project, and compliance becomes a governance power. If the DOI becomes a default passport into discovery and evaluation system, then the ability to participate in DOI-based legibility become a condition of being seen as a scholarly object and with value. And participation in this system carry visible and hidden costs. It requires technical integration, metadata workflows, staff time, long-term maintenance, and often fees. And these burdens are usually unevenly distributed. This is what I mean by unevenly resourced outcomes. The same infrastructure requirement produce radically different costs and trade-off depending on where you sit in the global system. It can create visibility for some, but it encourages dependency on a system that is largely controlled by the commercial publishers. A recent DOAJ study captured this perfectly. Some Latin American journals actually cite APCs partly to begin charging APCs partly to cover editorial technical costs, but they also mention specifically to pay for DOI payments. So while DOI is standardized with an ISO number, the ISO, the International Standard Organization specification, is not freely accessible like many open standards are. And DOI governance sits with the DOI Foundation and its registry agencies, which is a membership agency model. It is not a broadly participatory governance, community-governed infrastructure. So I want to be clear. This is not an argument against persistent identifier as such, but just a caution that DOI are not the only option. There are alternative persistent identifiers out there, including open community governance systems, such as the archival resource keys. So the equity issue is not simply identifiers or not, but which identifier infrastructure, governed by whom, and who bears the visible and the invisible cost of participation. So this brings me to what I think an equity-oriented framework could look like, one that treat no-fee, non-commercial, community-governed open access as a governance and redistribution project. Can I have the next slides, please? And I, I'm creating this name in like a somewhat tongue-in-cheek fashion. I'm calling this C3 open access to signify community governance, communities, commons-based, and care-centered open access. So community governance means decision-making stay with scholarly and effective publics who produce and rely on the knowledge system, especially those historically excluded by the dominant regimes of visibility. This is the way to prevent alignment from becoming agenda capture. Commons-based refers to knowledge production that is supported by shared public infrastructure, a knowledge commons rather than a product, marketplace, or pipeline into extractive metrics. This is where bibliodiversity belongs. The point is to sustain a plural ecology of journals, platforms, languages, and publics, not force everyone or everything into a single scalable framework. And third, care-centered means knowledge making is organized around relationships, reciprocity, and the conditions for people to do good scholarly work relevant to their local conditions, rather than speed, volume, and compliance with standards set elsewhere. Care Center open access keeps epistemic inclusion real, not assimilation into one evaluative framework, but legitimacy for plural purposes of scholarships. So I want to come to my conclusion. The final slide, please. We know that Latin America has been practicing no-fee, community-based open access for a long time. And so I want to ask, how do we ensure that this new diamond model doesn't overwrite their long-standing neighbor in Latin America and elsewhere? I share this quote from Johan Rock, which I found out maybe he's also at this session here. I like this quote because it really acknowledges what many of us already know. That is, Latin America has been doing open access from the beginning. And I like that if we were to start all over from scratch, the model we would choose is this particular model that Latin America has been practicing. So in my view, the equity task now is not to rediscover or rebrand this model under a new label. The equity task is to shift the power structure, redistribute durable funding for publishing labor and infrastructure, redistribute agenda setting authority, nurture and protect bibliodiversity and epistemic inclusion as core outcomes. And so the real question is whether we're transforming the regimes that decide what counts, the standards that identifies and evaluate a system that makes some knowledge visible and valuable and leave other knowledge peripheral and invisible. I will stop here and thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leslie, for this very inspiring presentation and for your three C's: community governance, commons-based, and care-centered. It's very, very inspirational and also very pertinent comments on the shifting of the structures and the powers. And then let me add shifting of funds towards these type of initiatives. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for being up. So I don't know if to say late your night or early your morning, but it's really in the middle of the night in Toronto. So thank you very much, Leslie, for being available at this time of the night. Same goes for our last, but certainly not least speaker, Arianna. It is also middle of the night for her. Arianna, are you ready for reimagining scholarly publishing for equity and inclusion?
Yes, I am ready, Lydia. Thank you so much.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. I will switch to Spanish since we have this opportunity to share the presentation in our language. Muchísimas gracias por esta oportunidad nuevamente de hablar con ustedes. Esta es mi tercera participación en 2 días. Creo que estoy monopolizando un poco el micrófono, pero agradezco mucho la oportunidad, justamente esa posibilidad de hablar desde lo que hemos venido haciendo en Redalic, que planteaba el día de ayer. Justo hace un rato mencionaba cómo podemos hacer posible en términos operativos y en términos estructurales el acceso abierto de diamante y la visión de ciencia como bien público dentro de las instituciones de investigación, las instituciones de educación superior, a partir de reformas importantes a nivel nacional, como es el caso de México. Y ahora quisiera tomar estos minutos para invitarlos a una reflexión a partir, y me honra mucho haber compartido este panel con mis anteriores los anteriores speakers que han mencionado varios de los conceptos que yo quisiera remarcar. Entonces, yo quisiera aprovechar esta oportunidad para invitar a la reflexión sobre un concepto muy poderoso que nos permite reimaginar precisamente la publicación académica, y es el concepto de los comunes. Justo Leslie lo mencionaba en estas 3 condiciones que componen un modelo esperado para el acceso abierto diamante precisamente, y creo que este es uno de esos 3, y a mí me gustaría retomarlo y reflexionar qué significa, qué implica y cómo este concepto no es meramente abstracto, sino que puede ser operacionalizado dentro de las diferentes instituciones, financiadores, tomadores de decisiones, las diferentes estructuras que componen el andamiaje de la comunicación científica. Los comunes no son simplemente recursos compartidos, son recursos que se crean, se mantienen y se gobiernan colectivamente. Los comunes existen solo porque las comunidades asumen la responsabilidad de su cuidado. Cuando pensamos en la ciencia desde el paradigma de los comunes, nos referimos a que el conocimiento científico se produce mediante el trabajo colectivo, lo cual es una característica natural de la ciencia. Se basa en trabajos previos y se sustenta en gran medida gracias a la inversión pública. Su valor reside en la circulación, la reutilización y la relevancia social, no en la escasez. Sin embargo, el sistema dominante de publicación académica opera según la lógica opuesta. En lugar de sustentar los comunes del conocimiento, les pone barreras, los encierra. El conocimiento producido con fondos públicos es capturado por editoriales comerciales que de manera extractivista resulta bloqueado tras muros de pago y regido por las reglas del mercado en lugar del interés público. Esto me lleva o nos lleva a pensar en la tragedia de los comunes, que es una metáfora y muy conocida en el paradigma de los comunes. En la publicación académica, la tragedia de los comunes no reside en que todos utilicen los comunes del conocimiento de forma irresponsable. La tragedia reside en que algunos actores extraen un enorme valor de los comunes y se niegan a asumir la responsabilidad de contribuir a su recuperación. Sin embargo, esta contribución colectiva se monetiza mediante sistemas que concentran las ganancias en un pequeño número de editoriales comerciales. El acceso abierto basado en APC ha intensificado al transformar la apertura en un modelo de pago por participación. En muchos casos, las instituciones, las agencias financiadoras y los sistemas de evaluación refuerzan este desequilibrio. Los recursos públicos se destinan a lugares cerrados, se destinan a las tarifas de publicación en lugar de mantener modelos como el acceso abierto diamante, mientras que los rankings y las métricas siguen recompensando a los espacios comerciales cerrados. Las instituciones que invierten en revistas como bienes públicos, especialmente las del sur global, siguen siendo infravaloradas e invisibles, incluso en bases de datos abiertas. Y aquí señalo algo que Leslie comentaba justo hace un momento, precisamente por los desequilibrios de poder. Pero existe otra vía, aunque no solo es justa, sino profundamente eficiente. Y ese es un poco cómo ha funcionado América Latina hasta el momento. Si cada institución de investigación contribuyera a los comunes del conocimiento, apoyando, creando y manteniendo revistas en sus áreas de conocimiento más fuertes, más destacadas, podríamos construir colectivamente un ecosistema editorial sólido, diverso y de alta calidad. Cada institución invertiría donde tenga experiencia, donde tenga comunidad y donde tenga liderazgo intelectual. Y a cambio, todas las instituciones se beneficiarían de la inversión de otros. Es justamente el ejercicio de la reciprocidad en la ciencia. Así es como funciona el paradigma de los comunes aplicado a las revistas científicas, mejor conocido como el modelo de acceso abierto diamante. Aunque esto debemos tomarlo con precaución, porque el modelo de acceso abierto diamante no necesariamente se piensa desde los comunes en todas las regiones del mundo. Las contribuciones individuales en este modelo no desaparecen. Su valor se multiplica mediante la cooperación. En lugar de duplicar costos o pagar repetidamente por el acceso, las instituciones coinvertirían en infraestructuras compartidas que benefician a todos. El conocimiento circularía libremente. La calidad se fortalecería mediante la gobernanza comunitaria y la sostenibilidad se lograría mediante la responsabilidad distribuida. Esta visión parece hipotética, pero no lo es. Es la forma en que la publicación académica ha funcionado durante décadas en América Latina. Lo que falta no es capacidad, sino reconocimiento de quienes tienen recursos para poder contribuir y ejercitar o practicar esta reciprocidad. Si tomamos en serio la equidad y la inclusión, como justo se nos ha pedido para esta reflexión, debemos reimaginar la publicación académica, porque requiere más que reformas técnicas, como bien lo señalaba Leslie, o nuevos modelos de negocio. Requiere un cambio fundamental en nuestra comprensión de la publicación en sí misma y de cómo la ciencia se crea, y se crea a partir de la ciencia existente. Debemos de dejar de tratar la publicación académica como un servicio o como un producto de mercado y comenzar a tratarla como un bien público, algo que debe ser gobernado comunitariamente, financiado y cuidado colectivamente. Esto significa reconocer y recompensar las contribuciones a los comunes, hacer visible cuando las entidades contribuyen al espectro de los comunes, del conocimiento, reformar los sistemas de evaluación y garantizar que quienes más se benefician del sistema también asuman la responsabilidad de mantener estos comunes. Reimaginar la publicación, por lo tanto, no se trata simplemente de abrir el acceso o de no cobrar APC o de incrementar algunas tecnicalidades para ser o no más visibles. Se trata de recuperar la publicación, el por qué, para qué y desde los comunes. Y solo tomando en serio el bien común podremos construir un sistema de comunicación académica verdaderamente equitativo, verdaderamente inclusivo y sostenible. Hasta aquí mi reflexión. Muchísimas gracias.
Diana, thank you so very much for this, again, inspiring words. Thank you all the speakers of this session who have been fantastic in providing the background, I think, conceptual background that has to inform our roadmap. And let me say that my recollection after hearing all these speakers is that more or less directly or indirectly, they have all challenged the values. They are all challenging the value system of the current publishing, scholarly publishing systems, the value of equity. What does equity mean in reality? The prestige, the openness, even the concept of openness is, I think, changing. The efficiency, the value of the scholarly communities. So to me, this is all a kind of a system value that we can start redefining, and it will inform the reconfiguration of the publication systems, be it infrastructures, being recognition systems, not only to recognize what is of value, but recognize what is invisible, as Ariana just said, all the tools that will be put at the service of the new value system. So we should first reconsider all these values. And I think that what this session is telling us, others as well before, previously, but these were more from a perspective from support, government, etc. Well, here we have really dwelled into the specificities of Diamond as a concept, not as a tool. I think there is a research agenda here. They all say we need more knowledge, we need better understanding of the flows, what the flows of knowledge, the flows of circulation of people, the flows of circulation of money, the flows of policies. So I think that we should create like a research agenda to better understand the current system and the system where we want to go. That is a bit my recollection of this session. And with this, I would like to close it. Unfortunately, no time for questions, but I'm sure we can use the coffee breaks and lunches for that. But let me call upon the stage the speakers and rapporteurs that are present here, Luciana Balboa, Horacio Zimba, Anne Rulp, to receive the honors, together with Johan and Yananti, who are the rapporteurs of the session. And let me invite David Oliva from UNESCO to be the one that pays the honors. So please come in for a photo. Please come in.
Yeah. Thank you, Lydia. So now we will be moving on to the thematic tracks, track A and C, agriculture and food systems and engineering, technology and applied sciences. And I request the convener, Sriparna Chatterjee and Kutubuddin Mullah, Senior Scientist, ICR National Rice Research Institute, Sriparna Chatterjee, Scientist, CSIR, Institute of Minerals and Materials Technology, Indian National Young Academy of Sciences. I hand over the floor to you guys. Please conduct.